When socializing, I was drugged by my boss. In desperation, I actually called my ex-boyfriend. 3 years ago. I dumped him without a word. 3 years later. In a critical moment, I nervously dialed the number that had been unfamiliar for a long time. A few seconds later, his deep voice came. "Hello? I'll be there soon." As soon as that glass of wine entered my mouth, the strong taste of alcohol was mixed with a faint bitterness. I immediately realized that there was something wrong with this wine. But it was already too late. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Boss Wang's hand had already wrapped around my shoulder. His chubby face came close to me, and flattered. "I know you are short of money now. Be sensible. And I'll give you a promotion and a raise." I still felt weak in waves. I secretly cried out that it was bad. I could only pretend to be obedient. I found an opportunity to run to the toilet and lock myself in a small compartment. I wanted to find someone for help, but I was on a business trip temporarily. There was no reliable person in the capital except. After hesitating for a few seconds, I still dialed that familiar yet unfamiliar number. But inside, I was extremely nervous. 3 years have passed. I don't know if he has blocked me. 3 seconds later, the phone was connected. A familiar male voice came, and I almost cried out, "Andrew, can you come and save me?" Andrew is my ex-boyfriend. In college, we were in a relationship for 3 years. The reason for breaking up is also very simple. He is the favored son of heaven in the capital, with a prominent family background and handsome looks. As for me, except for my grades and looks matching his, my family background is completely on a different level. This is destined to be only a love that remains in the ivory tower of campus. Not long before graduation, the rumored marriage partner of the young master of the capital changed one after another in the mouths of the media. From wealthy young ladies to box office queens in the entertainment industry. Looking around, there is no place for me. The official girlfriend. Andrew spent a lot of money to make those people shut up completely. He also comforted me lovingly and dudingly. "Baby, I'm sorry. It's my fault. I'll go back and tell my family. We'll get married as soon as we graduate. Okay?" At that time, Andrew probably had some sincerity. But I don't want to wait. Rather than letting this beautiful youthful love completely shatter and deteriorate one day in the future, it's better to leave a good memory. So, after his 23rd birthday, I chose to break up on that sunny morning. Without a reason, I just left quietly. In a flash. It was already 3 years later when I returned to this city where I had loved him. When we met again, he was much more mature than 3 years ago. Dressed in a suit and with a cold expression. He was no longer the young man who would happily raise the corners of his mouth as soon as he saw me. In the narrow bathroom, I endured the internal heat, supported my body hard, and leaned against the wall. I smiled awkwardly yet decently. "Well, long time no see." Andrew ignored me. His handsome face was like frost. He just picked me up like a little chit, and took me out of the bathroom. He took big steps and half hugged and half held me. I smelled the faint mint smell on his clothes, and only felt a few more degrees of heat all over my body. It was very unbearable. But on the surface, I didn't dare to make a sound. Before coming here, my best friend had given me a warning. "Don't meet Andrew when you go to the capital this time. You left without saying goodbye back then." He lost all face in front of his brothers. He has long issued a harsh warning. If he catches you, he will definitely make you pay. Thinking about it, the young master who has been surrounded by everyone since childhood was dumped without a word in a relationship. Anyone would be anxious. Not to mention Andrew, who is cold on the surface but actually scheming inside. It is estimated that in his heart, he has already torn me to pieces a million times. I lowered my head firmly. With my heart in turmoil, I had no idea what to do next. Just right. When I came out of the bathroom, I happened to meet Boss Wang who had been waiting. When he saw Andrew, he was stunned. "Master Chen, why are you here?" "To you and Xiaolin." Know each other? When he said this, Boss Wang's voice had already started to tremble. After all, Andrew's status and position are still very influential in the capital. Fortunately, Andrew didn't make things difficult for him. Instead, he followed his words and said, "No, not really." Boss Wang breathed a sigh of relief and reached out to pull me. "Then it doesn't matter. I'll take my employee first." Who knew that in the next second, Andrew tightened his hold on me and directly wrapped his arm around my waist and pulled me into his arms. "She is my enemy." Hearing this, my breathing stopped for a moment. I looked up at him in panic. Our gazes met. His pupils were pitch black, like an abyss. "I will take her back," he said, to settle the score. For the moment I was stuffed into the car by Andrew. I still wanted to struggle. "Well, thank you so much for tonight. I see that Boss Wang has left. I can go back to the hotel by myself." "Thank you." Watching the man fasten my seat belt without asking, "Get in the car and close the door." The air was silent. All the noise was blocked out. Only the two of us were left. I suddenly became anxious. I really can go back by myself. "Thank you for your help. But it's not good to do this so late. Damn it. If it weren't for the emergency, I would never think of looking for Andrew even if I were beaten to death." As if a sheep had fallen into a tiger's mouth. I was in a hurry and only wanted to escape. But the hand that was about to pull the seatbelt was suddenly pulled back by the man. His big hand covered mine and stroked it gently. In the next second, the man kissed me. Andrew and I have kissed countless times. His kisses have always been like him. Most of the time, they are gentle, restrained yet intense. Occasionally, he would be naughty and tease me faintly. But this time, it was extremely intense. He kissed deeply and wildly, like a violent storm, straightforwardly wanting to drown me in it. I know he is angry. With our lips and teeth intertwined, I heard his resentful, hoarse voice. "Luna, you really have guts. How dare you come to find me again? Aren't you afraid that I'll mess you up?" Huh? 5. Andrew has never been a person with a good temper. He has a cold temperament. But he also has the mischievousness of a rich young master. During the 3 years we were in love, both of us had bad tempers. We were equally hot-tempered. At that time, our affection was deep. No matter how much we quarreled, he would always give in to me a little. But at this moment, with new and old grudges, just looking at each other, there was an atmosphere of sparks flying. Perhaps it was the drug. Or perhaps it was too dark and black. Suddenly, he kissed me. In a daze, I heard his murmured words. Finally. 6. The next day, I woke up as early as usual. The clothes in the car were scattered all over the place. The ambiguous atmosphere in the air had not completely disappeared. Memories emerged bit by bit. My face instantly turned red. Meeting my ex-boyfriend for the first time and creating such a situation. It's a bit embarrassing. Before I could think more, the phone screen lit up. Several messages came into view. "Miss Lin, when will you pay for your mother's surgery? Are you not going to treat her anymore? Damn it. Today is the day to pay the fee." I hurriedly put on my clothes. Without thinking more, instinctively, I wanted to open the car door and go out quickly. But, click, the car door was locked. The man's voice was filled with satisfaction after the madness. And more importantly, it was full of anger. "Where are you going?" In the next second, he got up and directly covered me. His big hand brushed across my cheek. His tone was full of threat. "Going to run away after sleeping again?" I hung my head and said weakly, "I'm sorry. I was impulsive. I'm really sorry." Andrew was amused. He got off me and pressed his temples helplessly. "Luna, you could have called hotel service staff last night. You could have called the police. You could even start a live broadcast to save yourself. Why did you call me? Huh?" He questioned word by word, which made my heart rise sharply. After 3 years. He is still so shrewd. Indeed. Last night, besides being impulsive for a moment, I also had a small ulterior motive. My hand touched a small notebook in my bag. There is all my wish list on it. The last item is see Andrew again. 7 Yes. I did it on purpose last night. Last month. I just learned that I inherited my mother's cancer. I will soon pass away. I made a life wish list for myself. Earn enough money for the rest of my mother's treatment. Independently complete a project. Go to Yan'an to see Jade Dragon Snow Mountain and Ray Lake. And the last wish is to see Andrew again. Putting it at the end. I think it probably won't come true. A young lover. And an elegant breakup. Separated by most of the country. How could we meet again? Even if there is a chance. He wouldn't want to see me again. Right? But last night. The moment I drank that glass of wine. The bitterness of the medicine overflowed. The string that had suddenly tensed up as soon as I arrived in the capital suddenly broke. I was not sure. But I still chose to call. Unexpectedly. He really came. I really saw him. There is no regret. Thinking of this. I couldn't help but smile. Looking up at him again. I spoke with my usual calmness. Andrew. Didn't you say that you will always protect me? Wherever you are. Andrew did say that. At that time. It was the summer vacation of my junior year. I went for an internship. And the young master followed. At that time. He didn't have his current strength. At most. He was just a rich second generation with a strong background. Those business tycoons didn't take him seriously. The wine glass leaned towards me faintly. They also taunted coldly. Whoever you follow is the same. Acting like a whore but still wanting to maintain a good reputation. Although Andrew has a bad temper. After all. He comes from a noble family. His way of dealing with people is always indifferent. But that day. He changed his usual demeanor. Picked up a chair, and fought with that boss. The delicate young master was beaten until his face was covered in blood. He still didn't forget to hold me. Who was scared and crying. And comfort me softly. Don't be afraid. With me here. No one dares to bully you. I will always protect you. Andrew is a big straight man. When comforting people. He can only repeat those few words. But just those few words. I have remembered them until now. Now. It has actually become a reason for me to hide my secret. I learned it from before and acted coquette a slide to him. You said it yourself. So. I looked for you. Andrew stared at me. His gaze burning. After a long time. He smiled. That was a promise I made to my girlfriend. Luna. He called my name. There was no sign of joy or anger in his voice. What about you now? What am I to you? 9 This is indeed a problem. But I have always been a thick-skinned person. Especially now that I have cancer. I always look at things very openly. At this moment. My face remained unchanged. I still maintained a smile and said righteously, an ex-girlfriend is also a kind of girlfriend, right? The latter sentence was really too annoying to be said. I was too embarrassed to continue. But Andrew didn't intend to let me go. An ex-girlfriend doesn't count. He tapped his fingers on the steering wheel. A handsome face suddenly lost some of its coldness and showed a lot of uneasiness. Finally. His gaze fell on my face. As if with some kind of determination. Luna. Wee. Ring ring ring. The phone rang again. It was my mom. She woke up after the surgery. The first thing was to call me. The second thing was to arrange a blind date for me. Mom is getting old and can't accompany you for much longer. You always need to find a reliable person to take care of you in the future. Mom still doesn't know that I will probably leave before her. I lowered my eyes. A wave of bitterness surged up in my heart. For a moment. I couldn't say a word. Only listening to my mom chattering on the other end. Look at you. You don't even have a boyfriend. Whenever I mention it, you get annoyed. What can I do? Before she finished speaking, The phone was suddenly snatched away. Hello, Aunt. I am Luna's boyfriend. Ken. Well, we've been together for a while. Don't worry. We'll go see you later. Okay. Call me Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen. The big boss of a listed company with a net worth of over 100 million. Called Xiao Chen. Why does it feel more and more awkward the more I think about it? Perhaps seeing me frown. Andrew hung up the phone, threw it into my arms, and spoke coldly with some discomfort, just to reassure the old lady. I quickly nodded vigorously. Yes. Yes. I know. Thank you. Andrew started the car with great force. It seemed he was angry. I thought he was afraid that I would cling to him. Once yesterday, and once today. It's really annoying. I hurriedly said, don't worry. I will explain clearly to my mom as soon as possible. Just pretend to be my boyfriend for a few days. It probably won't be for a few days. After all, I won't live long either. For some reason, after hearing my promise, the man seemed even angrier. The car with excellent performance was driven very fast. I was so scared that my face turned pale. I held onto the seat belt tightly. Finally, being really scared, I closed my eyes. Coupled with the after effects of alcohol from last night, I actually fell asleep deeply again. This sleep took me from the capital to Zhongcheng. When I woke up, Andrew was pouring coffee powder into his mouth. After a half-day drive, there was only less than 10 minutes distance from Zhongcheng at this time. I politely thanked. Thank you. Andrew suddenly sneered. The aroma of coffee filled the room. Why? Don't you plan to split half of the gas money with me? Don't you think I'm looking down on you? 11. In college, I always had a very strong sense of self-esteem. I always had to be extremely clear about everything with Andrew. If he spent one more cent on me, I would jump, repeatedly emphasizing that I could do it myself. I could stand by his side through my own efforts. Now that times have changed, I am no longer the person full of enthusiasm who firmly believes that as long as I work hard, I can reach the same position as him. I smiled casually and pretended to be annoyed and tightened the bag in my hand. With a defensive look on my face, I said, the big boss of Chen's group doesn't care about this little gas money, right? I have no money. I won't give it. Those unreasonable words actually made Andrew, who had been angry all the way, burst out laughing. He curved his lips and glanced at me from time to time. The atmosphere suddenly became warm. After a long time, he suddenly said, now you think more openly. Luna, he said, if you had thought more openly 3 years ago, would we have broken up? 3 years ago. I was suddenly stunned, and didn't know how to answer him. 3 years ago, my mother was diagnosed with an illness. My parents divorced. My family situation took a nosedive. At that time, Andrew was thinking about whether to take a gap year, study abroad, or start a business. He made a whole list for me. There were all kinds of options on it, but I couldn't find an option that could overlap, an option that I could participate in. So, it's not a matter of being able to think openly. It's reality. I didn't speak. Andrew was by my side and didn't speak either. The setting sun slowly went down. The long drive of most of the day had come to an end. The car soon arrived at the hospital entrance. As soon as I arrived at the ward, a figure rushed towards me quickly. Sister, why are you here so late? I've been here waiting for you for a long time. My eyelid twitched suddenly. Vincent. Why is he here? 12. Vincent is one of the blind date partners arranged by my mom. The younger brother is 3 years younger than me. His family background is good. Since the blind date, even after repeated rejections, he still clings to me like a ghost. In his words, love at first sight. I can't help but love. There is only a 3-year age difference, but I often feel that there is some generation gap between him and me. For example, at this moment, his first sentence is, I miss you so much. He also wanted to rush up and hug me. But it was just blocked by the man beside me. Luna. Andrew frowned. Who are these people? Vincent laughed cheerfully. I am Sister Lynn's future husband. Me? What the hell? Andrew frowned even more tightly and stared at me firmly. He was bound to get an explanation. Do you have a boyfriend? I don't have a boyfriend. I quickly pushed Andrew and pushed him towards the hospital. He's talking nonsense. You go in and see my mom first. I'll explain to you later. Go quickly. Although Andrew was reluctant, he couldn't resist my soft and hard tactics, and went in looking back 3 times. Vincent looked at the back of the man leaving and suddenly understood. So sister, you like this kind. But it doesn't matter. I won't give up. The boy's eyebrows and eyes were relaxed. Every frown and smile was full of youthful vitality. I looked at him and smiled helplessly. I've said it several times. Don't follow me. Sister won't even give me a chance to pursue you? Do you like him so much? Is this your ex-boyfriend? Are you together? A series of questions, like a string of beads, directly made me dizzy. Like him? I really do like him. I have never forgotten. But being together. I felt the pain coming from my abdomen bit by bit, getting clearer and clearer day by day. How can a dying person talk about liking? In the end, I still shook my head. No. He came to help me. I don't like him. We won't be together. 13. Andrew stayed with my mom for several days in a row. Even the office computer was moved to the small compartment in the hospital. My mom likes Andrew more than I imagined. Before eating, sleeping, and treatment, she always asked where Xiao Chen was. The big boss with a net worth of hundreds of millions was really like an obedient junior, squatting by her bedside, listening to her nagging quietly. In my life, I have no other wishes. I just want our Loon and not to be like me. She can find a good person to take care of her. I have heard these words countless times. Every time I heard it before, I would argue with my mom. You didn't meet, good man. Will I definitely meet one? Must I walk the same path you walked? But now, I also choose to sit quietly by her side. Occasionally, I will still smile and echo her a few words. What if I can't find one? You have to get better quickly and support me. Mom is actually not wrong. In her little world, getting married and having children is a common custom. In her eyes, it's not a shackle. It's just to find a companion for me. After all, the people who truly loved at that time all promised a lifetime. Who can say for sure what will happen in the future? Seeing that I don't have much time left. Xiao Chen, my mom called Andrew. When are you going to get engaged? Get married? The hand holding the apple paused. The knife tip scratched the skin and blood overflowed uncontrollably. Ouch. For some reason, the man who still had a smile on his eyes and brows just now suddenly changed his expression. But he didn't say anything. He took out a tissue from the side and carefully wiped my finger. His expression was still gentle as he answered my mom's question. It depends on Luna. When she gets married, I will marry her. Looking into each other's eyes, my heart skipped a beat uncontrollably. At that moment, I really wanted to marry him. Really wanted to be with him. 14. Since that topic that day, I advised Andrew that he didn't need to come so often. My mom has seen that I have a boyfriend and is much more relieved. You have so many things to do every day. You don't need to come here every day. Another reason is that I will soon start the latest round of treatment. I don't want him to find out. At that time, in the largest hotel in Zhongcheng, Andrew looked up from a pile of documents. There was still some tiredness on his face. In fact, I have long found that he is no longer the playboy who only relied on his family back then. He has endless things to do every day. Except for very little free time. He is almost completely immersed in work. He doesn't like to talk much and doesn't smile much. His gaze is always deep and profound, making it impossible to see the bottom at a glance. At this moment, he rubbed his temples. His expression remained unchanged. He only answered faintly, "Okay. Then I won't come tomorrow." But, he tapped the table with his finger and looked at me again. "I still need your help with one thing. Accompany me to a banquet. I happen to have an event in Zhongcheng. I need a female companion." 15. Andrew has helped me a lot. I can't refuse. The banquet time is on Wednesday night. The doctor specifically told me, "Your illness can't be delayed any longer. Start treatment as soon as possible." There is still a little hope. I nodded and agreed. Then Thursday. "I'll come to see you early in the morning." In the evening, before we set off, Andrew specially came to pick me up and took me to a private design studio. With delicate makeup and precious jewels. I looked at myself completely transformed in the mirror, and couldn't help but smile and purse my lips. It seems that I haven't dressed up like this for a long time. Andrew sat casually with his long legs crossed and watched me quietly. He opened his mouth and praised, "Well, very beautiful. As beautiful as before." He smiled. Across the gorgeous lights. I couldn't help but blush. He got up and lifted my long hair. As his fingertips brushed over my exposed skin, I couldn't help but tremble all over. At such a close distance. I could even hear his heartbeat. Very fast. Okay. Looking up, I saw a diamond necklace in the shape of a little star on my chest. Not too big or too small, but shining brightly. I suddenly recognized it. Yes, this is the necklace from back then. The necklace that was supposed to be given to you back then. 16. That necklace should have been my graduation gift. But in the end, it became the fuse for our breakup. On the eve of graduation, the young master of the Chen family spent a fortune at an auction in Europe and caused quite a stir by buying a set of jewelry. I can probably guess that it was a graduation gift for me, because I had looked at that necklace a few more times on social media. He grinned and asked me if I liked it. I was happy inside. But there was still worry. He gave me such an expensive gift. What of equal value could I give him in return? I thought hard for many days. But unexpectedly, what came earlier than graduation was his mother. It was 2 days before Andrew's birthday. He specially brought his mother to meet me. The graceful and luxurious old lady didn't even give me a glance. When Andrew was sent to buy something, she finally said the first sentence to me, "Miss Lin, when are you going to break up with Andrew?" In the past, he liked to play around, so I didn't ask much. But this time, running to Europe to buy that thing for you has made a big commotion. After all, the impact is not good. She looked at me with her eyes half closed. "Just have some fun. You two are not from the same world. Like a dream, going around in circles. This necklace has finally found its owner." Finally. The man's deep voice entered my ears, murmuring softly. I was stunned, looking at the twinkling little star in the mirror. I was lost in thought for a moment. I was startled. Instinctively, I pressed down on that necklace, but was stopped by Andrew. His big hand covered my palm and stroked it up and down. The man was dressed in a suit, and had shed his former immaturity. His eyes were as deep as still water, like an abyss. "Luna," he said, "times have changed." 17. Times have changed. The moment Andrew led me into the banquet hall, I saw that somewhat familiar figure. Suddenly, I understood what he meant. Aunt Chen seemed a little older than before. She was still living in luxury. The only difference was that her eyes looking at me were full of kindness. She affectionately took my hand. "Luna, it's been a long time." Andrew gave me a look and whispered in my ear, "Relax. It's okay." Aunt Chen smiled. "Luna, I was wrong to you before. I hope you don't mind. Be magnanimous." Aunt Chen took me and led me around. Wherever we went, she introduced me as Andrew's girlfriend. About to get married. I was stunned and wanted to refute. But I was drowned in the sound of blessings. I've heard for a long time that the young master of the Chen family has someone in his heart. Today, I finally see the real person. That's right. I thought young Master Chen was a workaholic. I didn't expect him to have a beauty hidden away. Really remarkable at a young age. The waves of blessings made my head dizzy. I started to feel unwell again, making an excuse. I lifted my skirt and walked towards the lounge. Not far from outside the door, I heard the conversation between Andrew and his father. Have you really made up your mind? Just this girl? Well, Andrew replied. His tone was always indifferent. I've made up my mind a long time ago. So all these years, you've developed your own power and buried yourself in work just to have the capital to negotiate with me. Right? Andrew didn't hesitate. It's not negotiation. It's building up strength. So that I can protect the people I want to protect. Father Chen snorted. Then why did you call us here? Aren't you very decisive? A good girl. Whether it's being together or getting married. I can't let her be wronged and be in a sneaky relationship outside. Andrew said. She hasn't agreed to get back together with me yet. But I will only marry her. 18. When Andrew found me, I had already fallen asleep in the lounge. After getting sick, my body was always very weak and easily tired. When I woke up, Andrew was stroking my hair, very gently, as if his fingertips were electrified. Under the orange night light, our gazes intersected. It was also the most harmonious and peaceful moment of acquaintance since our reunion. You seem to have lost a lot of weight. Andrew stroked my cheek. His tone was gentle, as if he had taken off his former disguises. But for some reason, my nose suddenly felt sour and the bitterness in my heart weighed me down so much that I couldn't breathe. I turned my head to avoid his gaze. Is the banquet over? I want to leave. Andrew was stunned but still patiently explained. Almost. There's still a fireworks display. Let's go. I dodged Andrew's hand, reaching out to hold mine. Lowering my head, I said in a muffled voice, I won't watch the fireworks. It's too late. I want to go back. Andrew held me back. Why? Push me away again and again? Luna, don't you really like me anymore? I looked back and saw his slightly red eyes. Tears couldn't help but well up. I could only lower my head so he wouldn't see. I listened to his voice that seemed about to break. But I think you still like me. Otherwise, why would you subconsciously come to me when you're drunk? Auntie said that you haven't had a boyfriend these years. She saw that you would look at our photos at night. She said she recognized at a glance that I am the person you like. So you haven't forgotten me all these years. Right? Enrid put his hands on my shoulders, as if wanting to touch but not daring to. I originally thought that when I stabilized my career a bit more, I would go find you. But since you're here, I can't wait. I admit that I was wrong to you before. I didn't handle the matter of my mom looking for you well. So all these years, I've been building my own career. I want to be able to protect you on my own. Luna, the world is so big. Once we're separated, it's very hard to come back. Can you give me another chance? 19. That night's fireworks lasted for a long time. In the sky, they formed a big CA, followed by a heart shape expressing love. That was the fireworks that Enrid prepared to confess to me. People around who saw it were talking one after another, saying which girl was so lucky. I looked up and tears fell. I tightened the coat on my body. The night sky was dotted with stars. With Andrew's back to the rooftop, we were getting farther and farther away after all. Andrew, when I left 3 years ago, it was indeed because I felt we didn't match. I originally thought that when I had a successful career and achieved fame, maybe we would meet again by chance at a wine party or on a rainy day. So I will always look at your photos and always miss you. The love back then was real. But now, not loving anymore is also real. Perhaps it's just an obsession. Not love anymore. Seeing each other once can offset everything. We can't be together anymore. At 23, Luna left her beloved for self-esteem, hoping to return to his side one day when successful. At 26, Luna still loves Andrew. Leaving again is for life. Andrew, you still have a long way to go. A successful career. A happy family. And for me, this is as far as I can go. 20. Later. I only saw Andrew once. At my mother's funeral. My illness was also getting more and more serious. But I didn't want to be treated anymore. I remember that 3 years ago when I just graduated from college. My mother had black hair and was radiant. She was a very beautiful person. 3 years later, after I spent all my savings, she was only left with a body like a skeleton, crying and telling me that she had burdened me. She was sorry to me. 3 years. A serious illness. Neither living nor dying. I didn't want to be treated like this anymore. Using targeted drugs to exhaust my last bit of strength. I also didn't want to burden anyone. At the funeral, Andrew was dressed in a black suit. Such a young person actually had a few white hairs. He wanted to come towards me but was stopped by that little brother Vincent. She doesn't like you. Stay away from her. Andrew looked at me and still got up and left. Vincent ran over to say goodbye to me for the last time. Sister. I will soon go abroad to study for a graduate degree. I smiled. Have a safe trip. Also, thank you for helping me with this today. He shook his head in doubt. This lie is quite clumsy. Isn't it? Anyone can see that you still like him. I shook my head. Whether I like him or not is not important anymore. In my last days, I didn't want to burden anyone anymore. The world is so big. I just want to leave quietly. Leave with dignity. Vincent obviously didn't understand what I was saying. He suddenly seemed a little shy and said, Sister. Actually, I really like you. The first time I saw you wasn't during the blind date. It was at your company's annual meeting. I saw you taking on several people's work alone, and ordering the people under you to make sure the event was done well. In high heels. Resolute and efficient. I thought at that time. This sister is so cool. I liked you since then. But. He helplessly scratched the back of his head. It seems that you still like that man a little more. Your ex-husband is really handsome. You should grasp the opportunity well. After saying that, he politely said goodbye to me. I'm leaving. Sister. I wish you peace and joy. Be happy forever. I smiled. I wish it for you. Peace and joy. Be happy forever. 21. Later. Vincent still sent me many messages, asking if I had gotten back together with my ex-husband. At that time, I was in Yunnan, at the foot of Jade Dragon Snow Mountain, looking at the figure hiding behind the bus. I still couldn't help but smile. I replied, we got back together. Then, that kid ignored me anymore. I walked up to that person and pulled off his hat. I extended my hand to him. Andrew. The snow mountain is a bit high. Climb it with me once. 22. Andrew's perspective. She died on the 30th day after returning from the snow mountain. I wasn't by her side. In fact, since we came back from Yunnan, we haven't seen each other again. Beside Ray Lake in Yunnan, with the sea breeze blowing, the person I like is by my side. I have a lot of things I want to say to her. For example, why did you hide it from me? Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you go for treatment? Why not try again? She hid it very well. It took me a long time to find out. Why bear it alone? So many questions were buried in her smiling face. She wore that star necklace and showed me the flower hairpin. She was very cute and acted coquettish to me. She said, wearing flowers in this life makes one beautiful in the next life. But, Andrew, I think I am already very beautiful. Do you think so? I nodded, suppressing my tears. I held her in my arms. Yes. You are the most beautiful. She buried herself deeper in my arms. We hugged each other as if we wanted to embed each other into our flesh and blood. After a long time, she said in a muffled voice, Andrew, you should go back to work. I will soon not be beautiful anymore. When I get better, I will come back to find you. Okay? My tears fell. The first time we met was at a debate competition. That was the first time she participated in a debate competition. She hadn't formed a complete system yet. So she lost. But she overwhelmed a lot of people in terms of momentum. I thought at that time, this girl is so interesting. Later, when I went to ask for her contact information, a little girl raised her head proudly. When I improve my debating skills, I will come find you again. Such a small person with such an unyielding soul in her bones. She has her dignity and her persistence. Meeting, breaking up, and reuniting. It's all the same. So, I love her. So, I nodded. Okay. After 650. 0 hours. We will meet again. Postscript. In the decades to come, the president of the Chen Group spent hundreds of millions of funds to support cancer medicine. And he himself never married for life and lived in seclusion in Yan'an when he was old. He was buried in Yan'an.